Hello. Thank you for tuning into this 2024 General Election Candidate Forum for the Legislative District 35 House of Representatives, Position 2. This forum is presented by the League of Women Voters of Thurston County in collaboration with Thurston Community Media. The League of Women Voters is proud to be nonpartisan, neither supporting nor opposing candidates or political parties at any level of government, but always working on vital issues of concern to members and the public to defend our democracy and empower voters. Our membership is open to all voters in Thurston County. If you're interested in knowing more about joining the Thurston League, we encourage you to check out our website at www.lwvthurston.org. I am Marin Turner with the League, and I will be moderating this forum. James Allen will be our timer. Each district elects 2 representatives to Washington State's legislative branch. The legislature has 2 chambers, the House of Representatives and the Senate. The legislature determines the level and means by which citizens will be taxed, writes and modifies the state law, regulates other branches of state government, and helps Washingtonians understand and work with state government. The 2 candidates participating in this forum are Travis Couture and James DeHart. Welcome. For this forum, each candidate will have the opportunity to answer a series of questions. We will call on each candidate by alphabetical order, and they will take turns being the first one to answer the questions. Each question will relate to only one subject, and candidates should answer the questions posed. Candidates will also give a 1-minute closing statement. Candidates, you will have 1 minute to respond to each question, and if you need me to repeat the question, don't hesitate to ask. The timer will turn yellow when you have 15 seconds left and then show a stop sign when your time is up. If you don't notice the sign, I will tell you. We stress the importance of civility in our forums. You each have received the ground rules for the forum and have agreed to abide by them. So let's get started, beginning with Travis Couture. The first question is, what do you think is the most pressing statewide issue the legislature faces this upcoming session, and how would you address it?
Yeah, thank you for that question. I'd also like to thank the League of Women Voters and Thurston Community Television and my opponent, James DeHart, for this forum today. I think really we have 2 big issues, 1A and 1B, but I think 1A is our economy. We have some of the highest cost of living in the state of Washington, and many of our families, especially in rural areas like the 35th District, are being crushed with excessive taxes and fees and really policies that come from Olympia that really harm their ability to put food on the table for their families and make an honest wage and an honest living and be able to save for the future for their families. One of the things that I worry about is the ability for our kids to remain in the 35th District with this, especially the lack of affordable housing. Gas, groceries, housing are more expensive now than ever before.
Thank you.
Thank you for the question. Also, thank you to Thurston County Media, League of Women Voters, and my opponent, Travis, here. I think one of the most important issues facing the 35th and also the state of Washington is affordable housing. We need to make sure that we can get people into housing and make sure that we can have some public-private partnerships to make sure that we build housing for low and middle-income people. I think that also another issue that goes along with that is education. We are seriously depriving our students of well-needed funding for their schools. We have laid off teachers here in the 35th Legislative District. We have lost funding in cities like Yelm, and it's time that we start actually stepping up and moving towards a more equitable educational funding system. And that comes with housing, because we can't have kids in schools without having them live in an actual house or near an actual school. So we need to better our situations with education and housing.
Thank you. All right, James DeHart, the next question is, what, if any, changes to our election laws do you think would address concerns about the security of the process?
Sure. I think the major thing that we need to do is we need to work on security around election workers. because right now we have people demonizing election workers over lies about voting and elections. I was once a poll worker in my hometown in Helena, Montana when I turned 18, and I couldn't imagine the type of threats and violence that are being brought on our election workers. I believe Washington has the safest, most secure voting system in the country. I believe that voting by mail gives people an opportunity to vote at their own leisure, not in just one day and stand in lines. But we also need to stop the lying about how votes are counted, how machines work, and how the security of our elections are done. This is a growing epidemic in violence around poll workers and election workers, and it needs to end.
Thank you.
Travis,
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you for the question. You know, in a previous election cycle, a lunatic filled a ballot with fentanyl powder and sent it in. And it's things like this that cause really a lot of safety concerns at our ballot drop-off locations and for our temporary elections workers. And I was proud last session when we passed a new Class C felony against people who harass and intimidate our election workers. And so we are moving in a direction to have more protection for our elections workers. But as far as making the elections itself more safe and secure, we can never sit on our laurels and believe that everything that the government creates is perfect. And so we always have to be striving to make sure that the system is more secure and more accessible for voters.
Thank you. All right. So the third question will begin with you, Travis Couture. What is your opinion on the concept of legislative privilege when it comes to shielding legislators' communications and other documents from public view?
Yeah, this has been since I was elected in 2022 and took office in January of 23. This has been an issue, especially with the news. Of course, people may know we have a robust Public Records Act law in the state of Washington, allowing people to see in a transparent way the records that we produce publicly. Some legislators in the past have claimed legislative privilege. I have never done so. I was quoted in the Seattle Times for saying that I work for the people and everything that I have is open and accessible. You know, really, I think that we always have to be accountable and transparent to the people and to the free press. And so that we really shouldn't be claiming legislative privilege at all. I haven't done that in my own official capacity. You know, but we need to make sure that we always have those records available, and people shouldn't be waiting 2 years to get important records now.
Thank you. James DeHart.
Thank you for that question. And actually, this goes right into my career, actually. I am the Records Management Officer for the Washington State Gambling Commission, and public disclosure and records management is the name of my game. And with legislative privilege, I have made it an absolute point in my campaign to say I will never, ever, ever claim legislative privilege when I'm in office. I truly believe that the people do get to see our records. They get to know how legislation is formed, the discussions that are had, and how it is passed. If we do not have that, then we do not have transparency in our lawmaking. Those in my position out in the administrative part of the government are told by the legislature we have to be open and transparent, where about 92% of the Washington State legislature doesn't believe that for their own office. So I am thankful to my opponent here for actually saying he won't claim legislative privilege, and I will make that known through my campaign. Thank you.
Thank you. So we're going to stay with you, James DeHart. And the next question is, according to the Washington Secretary of State, only 41% of voters returned their ballot for this year's primary. What ideas do you have to increase voter turnout?
Sure. I think we need to have a lot more get out the vote effort. We need to be out there, not just the candidates and their campaigns, but nonprofit organizations knocking on doors, making sure that people know that it's really important to actually vote. We also need to look at the numbers that were from 2020 when everybody was sitting at home and able to fill out their ballot and turn it in. We had a very, very high voter turnout in 2020, which was amazing. I truly believe that if we had about 80% of the voting public come out and vote, we would actually know where the United States stands on most issues. I think that people are busy. I think that life gets in the way. But maybe we need to have more media informing people about when elections are, how to put their ballots in the mailbox or put them in a drop box and get them out there. We need to ensure that people know when elections are, how to vote, and how to get their ballots in.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's a great question. Of course, everyone has their right to vote or not to vote. And some people, frankly, choose not to vote. But, we already do put out a lot of education, and it's easier than ever before to register to vote and to get your ballot mailed right directly to your house. And then you have weeks and weeks to be able to turn it in. So it's easy to vote, but some people choose not to. Some of the things that I've been involved in the last 2 years is, especially with our 8th graders, doing kind of civics education, Capital Classroom, and having those kids down to Olympia. It starts with our kids and growing them into the citizens that will want to vote someday. And also, we have to make sure that we have choices on the ballot. When the citizens of Washington State sign on the dotted line to put an initiative on the ballot, and then other people and the no campaigns try to tear those things off of the ballot, it eliminates choices for voters.
Thank you. All right. The next question, beginning with you, Travis Couture. September is Suicide Prevention Month, and the Washington State Department of Health reports the majority of young people who die by suicide use firearms. What would you do to prevent youth access to firearms?
That's actually a great question. I serve on the committee that deals with juvenile justice, the Human Services Youth and Early Learning Committee. If reelected next session, I will be bringing some juvenile justice accountability bills, and some of them revolving around the use of firearms with our minors. It's a huge problem. We can't be giving juveniles multiple chances to carry around a stolen firearm and shoot up their neighborhood, or we can't be allowing gangs to be using juveniles as middlemen to commit crimes. So we do have to crack down on those crimes. And I will just say that gun legislation in Olympia has been very partisan and very strained. But I was very proud last year. I had the only bill in memory that was a bipartisan piece of gun legislation, a bill to get the bad guns off the street, to incentivize getting the bad guns off the street. And it would also help our justice system put people who do gun crimes away without costing millions of dollars.
Thank you. So,
Thank
James,
you.
how would you answer the question?
Thank you for that question. I appreciate it. I think this is a two-pronged question. I think for the weapon issue, we need to have more safety regulations in the sense of how we lock up our guns when they're at home. Kids aren't necessarily able to go out and buy their own guns, so where are they getting their guns? Probably their family. And those guns may be improperly stored, and we need to fix that issue. The second part of that is very close to the first part, which is mental health. We have kids through the pandemic who encountered huge traumas by being separated from their classmates and separated from just the camaraderie of a school. And that has caused a breakdown in behavior and mental health. And we need to up our services in Medicaid to help people get more mental health treatment, so we don't have so many youth suicides happening.
Thank you. All right. So in the remaining time, I'm going to ask the candidates about the 4 initiatives that will be on the November 5th ballot. I will read how each measure will be worded on the ballot, and each candidate will say whether they support or oppose each initiative. At the end, each candidate will have 2 minutes to explain their views about the 4 initiatives. All right, so it's yes or no. Initiative number 1, measure number 2124, concerns state long-term care insurance. This measure would provide that employees and self-employed people must elect to keep coverage under RCW 50B.04 and could opt out anytime. It would also repeal a law governing an exemption for employees. Should this measure be enacted into law, yes or no?
Yes.
No.
All right, thank you. Measure number 2117 concerns carbon tax credit trading. This measure would prohibit state agencies from imposing any type of carbon tax credit trading and repeal legislation establishing a cap and invest program to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. Should this measure be enacted into law? Yes or no? Starting with Travis Couture.
Yes.
No.
Thank you. Measure number 2109 concerns taxes. This measure would repeal an excise tax imposed on the sale or exchange of certain long-term capital assets by individuals who have annual capital gains of over $250,000. Should this measure be enacted into law? Yes or no? Starting with James DeHart.
No.
Yes.
Thank you. The fourth measure is 2066 concerning regulating energy services, including natural gas and electrification. This measure would repeal or prohibit certain laws and regulations that discourage natural gas use and or promote electrification and require certain utilities and local governments to provide natural gas to eligible customers. Should this measure be enacted into law? Yes or no? Travis Couture.
Yes.
No.
All right, starting with James DeHart, each candidate will now have 2 minutes to explain their views on all four initiatives. Starting with Travis Couture.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. I think that first and foremost, we have to recognize that each one of these initiatives garnered over 400,000 signatures, over 1 million unique voters for each one of these initiatives, and especially the last one about natural gas. The signatures were collected within mere weeks on a very short deadline to make it towards to be on the ballot this election. All of the initiatives, all four of them, in one way, shape, or form, relate to what I began with speaking about, which is the cost of living in our state. The cost of living is too high, the taxes are too burdensome, and all of these initiatives have to do with burdensome taxes that would harm our families and our economy, starting with the devastating prices at the gas pump because of the Climate Commitment Act. And if we make people get rid of their natural gas, especially in winter times, their prices to decarbonize or their prices to transfer over to electric will be extreme. And that is simply a cost that many of our families cannot bear. And it's corporate welfare for Puget Sound Energy, who is a sole beneficiary of this new law, which, by the way, I was there on the House floor. It was passed at 2:30 in the morning. Even though it barely passed, one of the problems is that there was bipartisan opposition to banning natural gas. And I think what we have to realize is that all of these things might sound really well-intentioned, but our budget, we can live within our means and still fully fund education, special education, and many other things. But our funding priorities are a reflection of our values. So if we value our paramount duty of education and other things in the climate, we will do much better than the laws that we have done that are really just a burden on the backs of our poorest people. Thank you.
Thank you. James DeHart.
Thank you very much. So the slogan, vote yes, pay less, is not exactly true on this. In fact, the Climate Commitment Act Initiative 2117 would actually not lower gas prices at all. There's no actual part of the bill that says it would. The second thing is Initiative 2066, when it comes to natural gas and banning natural gas. It actually doesn't have a time frame on it, and it is directing energy companies to find alternative ways to deal with natural gas as a fossil fuel. For the long-term insurance issue, I believe that's important. It's kind of like Obamacare, where the more people who pay into the system, the more robust it can be. And yes, I agree that it does add a little bit extra out of people's pockets, but at the same time, what if something happens to you? We're all one paycheck away from poverty. And this long-term insurance act will actually help out with that. And then finally, the capital gains tax. Well, this is a tax that the majority of the people watching here will never, ever, ever, ever have to deal with. In fact, it only deals with major transactions over $250,000 or more. Actually, I believe it's a little more than that. And it's a 7% tax, which doesn't really hurt the person who is getting that $250 check at the time. In fact, I have never gotten one of those checks, and I'm pretty sure nobody in this room has either. So therefore, I don't believe that this is going to be a huge burden on the people of the state of Washington. In fact, it's hundreds of millions of dollars that can go to very good programs to help the people of the state of Washington and make their lives better. We take away that tax, and suddenly we don't have enough to supplement education funding. We don't have enough to supplement housing. We don't have enough to supplement health care. These are things that are desperately needed for especially the poorer folks in the 35th and the state of Washington. And I urge a no vote on all 4 initiatives.
Thank you. Each candidate will now have the opportunity for a 1-minute closing statement, starting with you, Travis Couture.
Yeah, thank you. Once again, I'm Representative Travis Couture. It's been my honor and pleasure for the last 2 years to serve the 35th Legislative District and its people. It's your voice. I'm just your bullhorn to make sure that it's heard. Our great state is in crisis mode. We have the lowest amount of police in the United States, some of the highest crime rates, some of the most unaffordable and unavailable childcare in the country. We have the 4th most unaffordable housing. We have a drug and homelessness epidemic. And a lot of these problems are because of the 40 years of failed policies and failed leadership in the state of Washington from the majority party. We have to do much better. Despite that, I had plenty of wins. We restored reasonable police pursuit. Bipartisanly, we created a Parents' Bill of Rights for schools. We banned state income taxes, and we restored the penalties for the possession of hard drugs in our state. There's a lot more to do, but I'm here to do it. Thanks.
Thank you. James DeHart.
Thank you. My name is James DeHart, and I'm running for position 2 state representative in the 35th Legislative District. I truly believe that our best days are before us, and that the next generation needs us to steward in a healthier and more prosperous country and state. I believe in universal health care, because I don't believe that people deserve to leave the hospital or the doctor's office with a massive bill that could land them in poverty. I also believe in reforming our criminal justice system, where it's not a punitive criminal justice system, but a reparative and regenerative one. I believe in education, where the state has a paramount duty to fund 100% of equal education to all schools in the state. Our students deserve better than to have to play the levy system every single time we need a up in the budget. So it's time we start being more people-focused and family-focused rather than business-focused, and I'm here to represent the people rather than big business. Thank you.
Thank you both for being here. Thank you so much. We appreciate you participating in this forum today. We also want to thank our partner, TCMedia, for producing and airing it. We are indebted to TCMedia for years of making these forums happen and educating the voters. We encourage our voters to be a voter in the upcoming election on November 5th. Ballots for military personnel were mailed on September 20th, and all other ballots will be mailed on October 10th. You may register to vote up to Election Day, and every vote counts. Thank you for watching this 2024 General Election Candidate Forum.